Oh, that's interesting. Now we did it right. Huh. Okay. So that's the way to
What do
do
we
it.
have in place of iron?
I just learned something about this. Okay.
Maybe copper?
From iron.
Maybe copper?
So,
In place of iron.
What was the second?
okay, so what's the idea here? The idea here is that entirely stone. There was no wood in it at all. The idea here is that there are 6 levels altogether. The order is gold, silver, copper, iron, wood, stone. No, it started. It didn't start it.
Yeah, you're upside down.
You're upside down.
No, you're upside down.
We have gold, silver, copper, iron,
Here I'm
wood,
right.
stone.
You're upside down.
So am I upside down? The phone is upside down?
Yeah, your phone is upside down, isn't
Mine's
it?
also.
Iron is the cheapest wood.
Now I know that Malia's wants to do that.
Wait a minute. And if I do this, then let's see if I turn right side up.
It's behind, it's not behind.
Yeah, it's not like there's a delay.
Get used to it. People are not interested.
And now,
I'm sure it's brand
I wonder if it'll slip. Oh, this is me touching it. I gotta do this with 2
Tough out,
phones.
we like that.
I'm like, what can I do?
So I have to see it like
That's so funny, you have to watch it.
it's weird.
Oh, because you're upside down, your phone is upside down.
Yeah, my phone's upside down.
Right, so you have to do it
I have to
upside
find a
down.
better gadget for this. Anyway, so these are the 6 levels. Now notice what happens.
What's the lowest?
No, stone. What's it? Gold, silver, copper, iron, wood, and stone. So each time he skips even 2.
Oh, we become gold, copper. Become
No, gold has no substitute.
No, copper.
By the way, what is
Stone
gold?
changed to wood goes to
The understanding here is that gold is not from this world at all. That gold was not supposed to be in this world. It's only meant to be in the base matter. So there's no substitute for it. But copper becomes gold, meaning it skips 2 up. And the iron becomes silver. And the wood becomes copper. And the stones become iron. Each one skips up 2 levels.
Copper skips to what?
To gold.
Just write them out as 6 and
What did you
then
say, copper skips
to gold.
I thought,
Here, I wrote it out, so it's easy to
I
see.
got it.
Yeah?
Okay.
Once you write it out, it's easy.
What's the idea here? Also that if you want to console, if you want to fix something that happened in the past, you have to skip up 2 levels. Here it's 2 levels. So let's see how it works here. In Yetziat Mitzrayim. You have to know a lot of systems of levels. If you know only one system, you'll get stuck. Because you won't know what's above, how to translate it into above. But it's like saying here that the key is to understand what the person is suffering from and to put it into some hierarchy. So what happened here? That they were servants to what?
Mitzrayim?
To Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim are what? What system would I use to say that they skipped the level? If before they were servants to the Egyptians, now they're servants to Hashem. So this is something that we talked about a lot in the Tuesday classes. We didn't talk about it here at all. We never touched on this. But this is the Baal Shem Tov's main system that he calls Olamot Neshamot Elokut. World, Soul's Divinity.
So they skipped the human.
So before they were servants, it's a question, who were they servants to? You don't have to skip 2. Here it's saying that Hashem, when he does it, he can skip 2. We can probably only skip 1.
We skip 2 when you go to a counselor. First you move from your animal soul to your divine soul, and then hopefully the divine soul of your counselor.
So maybe.
That's 2.
Maybe. But here I'm saying, like, how do you interpret what somebody is telling you? You have to put it into a hierarchy.
Okay.
So in our case, in Yetziat Mitzrayim, they were servants to man, to souls, and so to sweeten that, they have to skip into a higher level, an entirely higher level. What's the higher level? Servants to divinity. It's world, souls, divinity.
What did they skip? Souls?
No, you skip up.
I'm saying they were servants.
I don't mean skip like jump over. I mean jump into a higher level.
They were first serving humans,
Humans.
which is
It could be that they're even less.
which is the world.
Like today you could say that people are not even serving people.
Right.
But that was
Mama
on the
served-
or in the Shamot. that they
It was
were
on the
serving.
what?
In the Shemot. They were serving the Mitzvim.
So they didn't skip. We're not saying
So
they
you said you
skipped.
don't
We're saying we're
necessarily-
It's like saying that today people don't, there's very little slavery to other people. There's very little state of somebody serving some other person. That almost doesn't exist.
There's more slavery than there was.
But you're serving the material world. That's true.
There's more slavery than there was in America during the slavery going on.
That doesn't make sense. We're trying to show that they skip a level. So they should
No,
have
no,
been serving
it's-
Olamot and they went up to other
I said that's today. I'm saying it doesn't matter. I said Hashem can skip too. Hashem, when He does it by Himself, He can take copper and turn it into gold.
Okay.
We can't skip two levels, but we don't need to. It's enough for us to just go up one level. That's all you need. So, for instance, with the water is inanimate. The bitterness in the water is inanimate bitterness. And Moshe Rabbeinu takes it up by a level by bringing the vegetable bitterness, the bitterness in the tzomech. If I have a plant, suppose if I have a plant that has a problem, so what I would do is I would go to the level of life, of living, of an animal. I have to go up one level. I have to find the same quality.
You give it water.
What?
If you have a plant that has a problem, you give it water, you give it domain.
Who said?
You should bring it alive.
Usually that's what you do. You also give
An
it
example that we do today,
fine.
something that we do today, for instance,
They have music to it, don't you know?
that's already skipping it to
By the
the,
way,
to the
fertilizer
human
is
level.
domain. Sorry. Fertilizer is domain.
Sorry?
Lots of people don't like it, it's domain.
No, I said it. If I'm to my, here's the example.
What did
So,
Gabi say?
so what Javi just said is like how we see it here. That in myself, why do I call it the animal soul and the divine soul?
Because we're half beast, half divine.
No, because again, it's the same system of inanimate, plant, animal, and human. My divine soul is my human soul. It's called Ruach Ha'adam Ha'olai Lamala. It's the man in me. So for me to sweeten what I have in my animal soul, I have to take the animal and bring it up to the human. Okay? Then until now it's been broken in my animal state, I have to bring it up to my human state. So what was serving until now was bound and locked into the animal soul, which is all the things that are difficult and hard and hurtful in my life. The moment that I bring them up to the divine soul, which is really my human soul, that's their sweetening. So I have to always think in that's the general thing, but now I have to think about it much more particularly in each case, what exactly is going on. And then to find the right hierarchy to lift it. That's what it means to find the sweetening. To find the sweetening is to find the right system in which I can go up a level. So you have to know a lot of systems to figure it out properly. Sometimes maybe it's just a sfira. That the problem is in gvura, so the rectification will be when gvura goes into chesed. Because chesed is higher than gvura in that sense. Or it could be that it's only, like we say, it's exactly what Chazal say, what the Zohar says about harsh judgments. Judgments are where? Gvura. How do you heal them? You bring them up to Binah. You go only on the left axis. You take what's in Gvurot, right? Gvurot are all the difficult, harsh judgments in a person's life. How do you sweeten them? En הגבורות נמתקות אלא בשורשן. That's the language of the Zohar. They're sweetened in their source. What's their source? One level higher. What's higher than Gvura on the left axis? Binah. So you bring it into Binah. That's what you do. That's the ultimate. If you talk about So, and we talked about where sweetening was in the Chumash. It's only in this parsha, in Parashat Bishalach, this week's parsha. But in the Zohar, sweetening appears many times in the context of sweetening the harsh judgments. And it's always by lifting them, by elevating them to their next level, which is Binah, above Gvura.
Why do we water plants?
Why do we water
So why
plants?
does it like
Water, which
crash
is
course in
domain,
gardening
It's
so fast?
the same question about us. Why do we eat food, which is plant food and
Because we live in a
animal
physical
food?
reality, we need to go
No,
down.
because at its source, it's higher. Those are the first few Torot in the Torah. The first few teachings.
So we're always going higher.
That their source is higher than ours. That's why we can gain from them, but we don't need all of them. That's why most of it goes as excrement. You don't need most of it. It's only the energy in it. That's what you take out. Well, most of it you just throw out because it is lower than you. It's not connected to you. You're only taking the higher
Shell is
part.
lower than you.
The kli is lower, but the
I
source
always
of
go
the
back
kli
to
is
that.
higher.
If here, breast milk doesn't, you almost don't have any excrement because it's
No.
not an animal or a plant.
No,
It's
it's
actually
from a human,
us,
from a
and it's
human.
pure energy almost.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the general context of sweetening. And that's why it's so difficult, because it's difficult and it's not difficult, because this is how Hashem heals. So basically to go through sweetening, you have to think like Hashem, which is to heal something with itself, but in a higher state. Okay? So the example in Torah, the two examples in Torah are, one is slavery and one is bitterness. Hashem heals the slavery of Egypt with becoming a servant to him. And he shows Moshe how to heal the bitterness in the water by taking the bitterness in a tree. There are two examples that you have to take the same quality, but at a higher level. And now you can think about anything you want. For instance, going back to the example of somebody who grows up without parents, who's an orphan like the Baal Shem Tov. So who is he an orphan from? Here the lack is, the pain is that he's an orphan from
Plainly, his parents.
From humans.
Okay. Humans.
So what does he have to become an orphan from? From Hashem? That's what he has to feel. He has to.
What is it to become an orphan of Hashem? He has to separate from Hashem?
No.
He has to have
He
Hashem die?
feels. No. He feels that every person. That's what he feels. Every person's being an orphan from Hashem. That's what he feels.
Oh,
He's sensitive to it.
They're separated from Him.
It's okay, again, that your whole thing is to become closer to Hashem. That you're an orphan now, but you have to find your father and mother. Who's your father and mother? Hashem is my father and mother. You develop it a lot more, but that's
We spoke about this.
that's the basic idea. You don't throw it away. He doesn't throw away the feeling of being without. He uses it in order to help others. Showing them that the moment that you turn to Hashem, because you're an orphan now, that's why you're suffering.
But it's in others, not in himself.
It's in himself
First he
also.
felt it in himself. He had
It's in
no
himself
parents.
also. He feels in himself that really, why does Hashem orphan me from my parents? Because I'm orphaned from Him. When I work to fix that, then he becomes sensitive to it in other people also. That's why he can help
But
me.
he's not gonna not be an orphan.
In the same way that I'm not going to be a servant anymore. I'm going to continue to be a servant,
It's just
but to the
how-
right place.
It's like sacrifice. What is it called?
That's why.
Yeah. No, but because don't you think the
Offering.
one who says I feel orphaned from Hashem eventually doesn't feel orphaned from Hashem?
No, that's the whole thing. That he always has to
Well, he's
reconnect.
sensitive to other people who are
But
orphaned.
in himself also, he has to reconnect all the time.
Reconnect. But what if he
The
starts
moment
to
that I
feel like I'm
stop-
not orphaned? I start to feel like Hashem, I
What's
love
the
you, you're
ultimate?
mine, you're my father, you're connected. I don't
That's
feel
it.
orphaned.
And then the next moment, you don't. That's the whole secret.
Don't worry.
That's the
You
ultimate.
don't have to find
A
the
servant doesn't, let's say like a servant, it's not that I did one job, now I'm free. It doesn't work. I remain a servant in any situation. Whatever this, even when I'm completely with my master,
So you're a happy
even when
servant.
somebody else is doing what he wanted done, I'm still a servant.
You're a corrector, like a proper
I'm
servant.
constantly, kind of, it's my constant proper place.
She made a very good point, though. She says
Okay,
that
no,
he's
I'm not-
still an orphan, and he still has no parents.
Okay?
In other words, we are not going to sweeten the circumstance of what happened necessarily. Like,
Of course it does.
Elevating the circumstance.
we're not giving him human parents again.
But he doesn't need them. Once
Because
he
in the
gets
same way that you don't want to
Hashem,
be a slave to people again.
what does he need to be?
You don't go back down to become a servant to people.
You're in effect saying in that person's case, his parents would have
His
been unhealthy for
orphanage
him.
is his power.
Parents would have
My
been unhealthy for him.
servitude is my power.
Basically.
We wouldn't have developed.
So that's what you're getting at, that whatever it is that they went through is going to be
To
The
serve
source,
him.
that's what
their
it means to
greatest
sweeten.
strength.
That itself becomes the strength.
And that's, I guess, what it means when Enakadosh Baruch Hu bowed the Trumya. Like,
Nachon?
Hashem doesn't give you something that you can't deal with.
Right.
Then
What does he
you wouldn't
mean?
be
It doesn't
dealing
mean,
with it.
it means that you have to elevate it to deal with it.
So you
It's
need to
not,
get
if you
someone
leave it
who's
where it
really
is, it could break you.
Yeah,
You have to bring it up to the higher place.
this was good.
Hashem doesn't come between you, but the world does.
Do you need to bring that person? I mean, like, you know, we were going to do sexual assault with Rabbi Ehrenberg. There's someone who's raped. You want to bring them to a point where they feel like the Baal Shem Tov felt about his being an orphan.
Meaning,
I don't know how to say it exactly in
I don't
words,
think,
but somehow this rape was important for me to come to where I need to be.
yeah, but I said you can't say that to the person when they're in submission or even
No,
in separation.
but they need to come to.
They might come to some recognition.
I mean, that is sweetening. Beyond that, it can't be sweetening.
No, but it's very, you can't say it that way.
But they have to somehow
You
say
can't
this.
say, look at what you said. You said the
I know,
assault
I know this.
was important. It's
Yeah,
not that
that's
being a
my
slave
question.
to Egypt was important to me. What's important to me is when I became a servant to Hashem.
That's why I asked about being an orphan. It's the
Yeah,
same
so
thing
it's
to
only
me.
when I'm an orphan before Hashem. An orphan before my parents.
Right, so you're not saying
Relative to
that
my
they died
parents.
was good. You're
It
not
wasn't
saying
good.
that.
It becomes the negative becomes it enables me to reach the positive.
And this is what they're
But it
going
remains
to
negative.
eventually say. This
Right.
is negative, but this enabled me to.
Right.
They have. I mean, if they don't say that.
Right. Otcha Hashem ki anafta bi. It's not that he didn't anaf bi. Of course he did. It was something very negative for me. But I can say thank you because I see where it led. That's the sweetening.
You have
Is
to say
that
it's
the
negative.
qualities that I learned there, okay, now serve me in a higher context.
You were trained.
Exactly what this is, like with something like, I don't think you could take-
less intense.
I have to say, I don't think you can take something as general as rape and discuss it in general terms and it will fit everybody. It's not one size fits all. Because every person experiences something like that in a different way. It has to be very particularized. Like so here really you have to discuss sweetening a lot more. We will, with Hashem. But eventually the person himself finds what is it out of that experience, what new abilities did he give me, for instance, that I was able to survive it. How can I survive?
A lot of people outside of that person can actually.
How can you
see it.
survive an experience like that? So usually, if the person is young, so we talked about this maybe 3 weeks ago about dissociative disorder, dissociative identity disorder. Your personality could what people call in layman's terms splits.
Mhm.
It's a defense mechanism. How do I fix it? The same way a psychologist would fix it. He would say, what is this serving in you? How is the split serving you? Now it's serving you to cope with the lower place. The moment that we take it to the higher place, and that requires a lot of thought and insight. What is the higher place that this could serve, this split? For instance, a lot of times the split is like to become a younger figure of yourself. It might even have a different name. The person doesn't remember from when when he switches from one identity to the other. It could be that it's a younger identity, and if it's a younger identity, sorry, just a second. If it's a younger identity, then maybe what you use it for is to be to work with children. As long as it's just serving you and it has no higher context, then it's a burden on you. But if you're able to turn it into something that you use in a higher context, and I'm not certain that that's what it would be.
Right.
You have to think about long and hard. I just said this like in a second, but you have to think about it a lot. It's not a simple thing. But if you can figure it out and place it in the right context, then it could suddenly become something that is sublimated again into the personality and is now serving you when you need it. It doesn't make the original experience that caused this to happen to become something positive in the sense that now it's all good. It's not all good. It's terrible. But I still say thank you, Hashem, because without this I wouldn't have. For this reason, in the end,
What your mission is.
No.
in the day.
it has to do with that. That's why in the end, before the fact, we say we don't want nisyonot at all.
Right.
We'd rather not have the whole thing. But it's Hashem saying to us, look, if you don't, you won't know who you are.
Why? Like, why does it have to be enclosed in that? He's so big. Why can't it be in true revealed good ways that we see our mission?
It could theoretically, but apparently
You wouldn't
in
own
practice it doesn't work.
Struggle, we
it. You
don't
wouldn't own
see
it. You
struggle.
wouldn't own it.
Right.
So there's all kinds of words that people use today to describe it. In the end, we always say that it's because. In the end, we say it's something else.
There's a piece when you accept and you do sweeten it that makes your base so much stronger.
All these things are about you. In the end, we say that the whole reason is because you should grow with Hashem, not because you should just grow by yourself. Because when you do this process with Hashem, it's different. If it's just between you and yourself, maybe you could do it. But here, as I keep saying
But you know
this,
that Hashem wants to teach you something, and you
So,
need to learn whatever you need to learn.
again, that in the end you have to accept that all your growth has to be vis-a-vis Hashem,
Relationship.
your relationship with God. It can't be, the real growth that would be divorced from that relationship would not be useful for anything. It would be growth, but it would be sort of like a plant growing. Well, you grow, so what? There is such a thing that as you normally mature, your middos, they mature also. But the real maturity that you're looking for, the real growth that you're looking for, is the one that leads you into a dialogue with Hashem. That is the one that's really useful. And so, to get into a dialogue with Hashem, you could theoretically maybe only do it through learning, maybe. But in the context of a normal psyche, it has to happen through these difficulties. Okay, anyway, so that's all
Sometimes the problem does get rectified.
What?
Sometimes the problem does get rectified. Like if Hashem has stayed an orphan, but sometimes the Hamtaka is sweet, is actual, the problem goes away.
No, of course the negative repercussions will go away. But it's not that suddenly you'll say, will we say one day to Hashem, all these souls that were killed in the Holocaust weren't killed? That's rewriting history. I don't know how you can do that. Maybe Hashem can. I don't know what it means. For me, the crisis still exists in the past. But I say that without this crisis, without this negative experience, I would not be in the present that I'm in.
You have to say that there would be no such thing as Kriyat HaMeitim. Then we would say they're not meant to ever be there.
Maybe they never died. Maybe they're still hanging around Europe.
You
No.
said death is negative.
If there's a concept of Kriyat HaMeitim, it means something should have
Did happen.
something happened and it needs to come back.
Yeah.
So it wasn't bad. It wasn't meant to be. Or bad isn't meant to be.
What do you mean? The bad happened.
That happened, but I'm saying you had to learn from it. But the situation can still come back in its fullness.
Yeah,
One
no,
can
there's
still get
always a
discouraged.
rectification,
Yeah,
but it's a rectification. It's not turning the wheel backwards.
No, of course not. You'll
No, I'm
be the
wondering
person you are.
without the negative struggles, we can't accomplish that.
Yeah.
So I'm saying without the negative, there's no dialogue. That's the
Because
main
then there's
thing.
no dialogue.
The main thing is
It's
the
not
dialogue
real.
with Hashem. Huh. Okay, anyway. Okay. So,
Weirdly. No, I'm saying without the negative struggles, so we're saying we can't accomplish that real dialogue with Hashem
Okay.
because only the negative struggle will make us face Him at the end of the day.
Ask yourself, when do you talk to Hashem? How
Okay,
frequently?
so for me, it works a bit opposite. That's what I'm saying.
You talk when you're happy.
Yeah.
you said it. That's
So
also part of it.
Yeah.
It's also part of it. I don't know. Maybe you should talk as much as you can when you're happy.
Yeah, no, it's learning how to use that also. Though,
Said,
to be able to-
that's also an experience.
That doesn't mean
That's my natural.
But it means you-
That's why he wants you to work. Okay.
Right.
Just
I get
answer
that.
the question.
Yeah, I know. What's
Okay.
easy is not the question.
So, I think this is the end.
Just a quick question. Is there a criteria for a Jew to point out the new moon? He has to be learned in Torah? Or just anyone can?
Say again?
For when a Jew discerns the new moon, and